right, welcome back, high school football fans, to this week's edition of High School Football Rewind. Drew Sarachman alongside College Football Hall of Famer Jim Ballard. We are coming to you from the Stark Media Studios in beautiful downtown Massillon. We'll get right into it this week. Canton Valley, 50-7 winner over Frontier. Coach Donnie Hertler's squad, with a couple winnable games coming up, look like they might be a playoff contender. So that'd be great for Canton Valley down there. They haven't, I'm not sure they've ever been to the playoffs. So obviously he's doing a great job. A lot of success for him.
He wins everywhere he goes. I mean, he's been a legendary coach. I mean, him and his dad for a long time. What he did at Hoover, and it's good to see him back in coaching. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what your record is in the regular season. You just got to get into the playoffs, and then it's a second season. Canton Valley plays some schools that are a little bit bigger at times. Their conference is pretty tough. So just get in the playoffs one way or another and let the chips fall.
Yep. Ridgewood beat Sandy Valley 47-30. Malvern beat Buckeye Trail 28-20. Malvern QB Jared Withrow, the sophomore, continues to shine. Hornets are now 6-1. We might be able to see them week 10 here with a matchup against East Canton. I'm excited to see both Brennan Betts and Jared Withrow. We talk about all the other quarterbacks at the big schools. Two small school quarterbacks, getting it done as well.
No question about it. I need to track those guys down on Twitter. I need to get them in the BQA Academy in this offseason, see if we can't help them get a little bit better. But you talked about it, Drew, and we've been talking about this for weeks. The quarterback play continues to get better, not just at the big schools, medium size or small, but across the board. Guys are just getting better. Offenses are getting better, and a lot of teams are scoring more points.
Yeah, I know. I was talking with Mark Milano yesterday, and it makes you wonder, where's the defense in Stark County? But these quarterbacks, I think, are the ones making the plays out there.
The question is it the defenses are bad, or are just offenses evolving and making it harder for defenses to defend? Because now, as an offensive coordinator, if you got a quarterback who's dual threat, you can always empty out the box. Mm-hmm. And if you empty out the box like Green does and go 5 wide, well then they show what they're going to do on defense. It's pretty easy to read. And then if you got the quarterback that can run, then you spread the field, then you got the linebacker on him. That makes it tough. Then you put one guy in, then you can run the zone read, then you can run RPOs. It really stretches the defense from sideline to sideline as well as vertically.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of influx of speed in the high school football game, and that's making offenses more dangerous. As we move on, East Canton gets back on track after a tough loss last week, 21-6 win over Strasburg. And then a huge win for Canton Central Catholic. 20-10 over Mentor Lake Catholic. Defense stepped up. We've been talking about it for weeks. That Central Catholic defense has to tighten the screws, and they did it. They came up in a big way. Jack Talkington accounted for another 3 touchdowns in that game. Central Catholic, very tough schedule for a Division VI school. They look like they're peaking at the right time now after that tough loss against Alliance. They come back 2 straight wins, and now they're starting to get some momentum rolling towards the playoffs.
Absolutely, and we just said it a few minutes ago. Just find a way to get into the playoffs. And Canton Central Catholic has done that. The last couple of years with that schedule has been brutal, and they've been 4-6, and they've gotten in the playoffs, and they've won some playoff games because of the strength of that schedule. They play Perry, they play Jackson, which is I believe 2 weeks, and then they finish up with St. Thomas Aquinas. Hopefully, fingers crossed, because the last thing we want to see is St. Thomas not be able to play that rivalry game, which you've been a big part of for so many years as an alumnus and a coach. But yeah, Canton Central Catholic getting it done. Jack Talkington continues to just be a football player. Spoke to him Friday night. He called me. He was so excited with that big win because Lake Catholic traditionally has been a very good program. Another Gibbons.
They were in the state championship game 2 years ago.
And TJ and I and Mark did the Northwest game where Northwest lost 7-0. Should have beat them. But this Lake Catholic team, you never know. Their record isn't very good, but that's another team that plays a lot of very good teams, a very strong schedule. Mm-hmm. And for Canton Central Catholic to get that win, excited. Talkington just has to stay healthy. He's still dealing with a little bit of a lower leg issue. He did go out of the game, I believe, for a quarter or so. Ended up reinserting himself because he is that guy, the lunch pail guy, the guy that gets it done on both sides of the ball. Great win for Trucker. Great win for Canton Central Catholic.
Yeah, and you mentioned St. Thomas Aquinas. They did cancel last week against Ravenna Southeast. Not enough available players. And they have canceled again this week against a rivalry game there, Warren JFK. Everyone talks about Central Catholic and St. Thomas a rival. Warren JFK and Aquinas have had some great games over the years, so it's a shame to see them have to cancel that one. And then coming up, I believe they have Mogador and then Canton Central Catholic. So I don't know, maybe Coach Burks will get his squad together there to finish the season, but we don't know. Right around the corner here, last week at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium, it was the Massillon Tigers 42, Middletown, Delaware 24. Middletown jumped out to a 12-0 lead, but then the Tigers turned up the defense. J.P. Simon's D-lines put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They had 5 sacks, a bunch of pressures. Yeah, you got the sledgehammer out. And Massillon scored 35 unanswered. This Massillon squad, I think we both agree, is the best team in Stark County. And we were talking about a little bit before the show. They are a Division II state title contender, legitimately.
No question about it. And Slaughter continues to grow into the position. You've got the bevy of backs, Hartson. Lennox has been hurt. He's coming back, making plays. But they're so deep at the skill positions. And the scary thing is, Drew, they're pretty young for a Massillon team. There's a lot of juniors in there that are making noise off last year's team, and some sophomores that are getting some run. Their defense flies around. They do a great job of scheming you. They do a great job of disguising coverages. They do a great job with their blitzes. You never know where guys are coming. We watched them play Fitch and Glen Oakland week 2. I mean, they bring the corners off. They roll the safeties down. They start 2 high, 1 high. They bring the linebackers up. They drop them out. They just do a great job to confuse you, and they're fast. And their back end isn't. They're not 6 foot, 195 pounds. Liebler's what, 150? 5'8", captain as a junior. I mean, that says everything to me right there. We've seen him. He is so good and so strong and makes a ton of plays on defense. And offensively, they are big up front. They're figuring it out. They have the ability to control the line of scrimmage and control the clock with the way that they can run the ball.
Yeah, they have a plethora of playmakers on both sides of the ball. Your probably third threat running the football is Pringle. Obviously, he's more of a linebacker. But he can bring the boom down on offense too.
Fitch, when they ran for 406, he had 10 carries for 77 yards.
Yeah,
in a secondary run, running back role. They're deep,
very deep. Like I said, I think if they continue to improve, obviously, my heart is with my Hoban Knights. I coached there for 5 years. They are, besides Winton Woods, probably my favorite in the north side of Ohio. But this Massillon team is getting there.
They're battle tested.
And I want to see their growth. I want to see what they do this week. I got a bye next week. I want to see what they do against McKinley, and then I might make a bold prediction about the end of this season for the Massillon Tigers. So we'll have to see here. We'll have to look in the crystal ball and see what happens. But we're going to take a quick break here. I just want to remind you to follow us on all our social medias. Stark Media Team, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure you subscribe, like this YouTube video, subscribe to our YouTube page. We got a lot of content coming out throughout the week, graphics and all those types of things. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
At C.H. Vallis & Associates, we've been proudly serving the greater Stark County community for over 78 years. Locally owned, we cover your home, auto, business, and life insurance along with your group benefits. Our partnership with auto owners has allowed us to span not only Ohio, but throughout the entire country. Did you know that Auto Owners, an A++ rated company by AM Best and a Fortune 500 company, has ranked C.H. Vallis & Associates a top 10 insurance agency in the state of Ohio? From your basic home and auto needs to insuring some of the largest companies in America, there's a reason people choose C.H. Vallis & Associates and Auto Owners. Our dedication and passion for our clients and their coverage is part of our commitment to excellence. For all your insurance coverage needs, there's only one call to make, and that's C.H. Vallis & Associates, located at 1302 South Main Street in North Canton. Contact us at 330-494-2776 today and see the difference in customer satisfaction.
All right, we're back here on High School Football Rewind on the Stark Media Team YouTube channel. We'll head to the EBC now. It was Salem, 48-13 winners over Minerva. Another big game for Jackson Johnson. Salem, they've got only one loss in the EBC. They're going to have a say in who wins this thing going down the stretch. They've got Carrollton coming up this week, and then a Week 10 matchup with West Branch.
It's going to be an interesting game. The big thing for Salem is they can score with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side of that, can they stop somebody? And I know against the Lions they struggled a little bit. They put up big numbers. Zerbrug does what Zerbrug does, and that's just fill up the stat column in every way that he can. Carrollton coming off a beatdown, which you were out there. Tough loss. How do you rebound? You got Jackson coming in. Or Jackson Johnson coming in. Excuse me. Got to kind of have a short-term memory on that game. Carrollton has demonstrated throughout the whole year. They got the #1 rusher in Stark County. They can run the ball. Can Salem stop them? Salem will be able to score points. Their young receivers are really starting to step up.
Mm-hmm.
Johnson, in his third year as a starter for Pops, engineering that offense, calling a lot of the plays himself, just a real high football IQ, doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Love his game, spent a lot of time with them. Texted with him after this past weekend. He was glad he was able to play in the first half and then just kind of relax, let the pedal off, get to the sideline, let the body heal up a little bit because Drew, this season's a long grind, and if you're able to get out of the game early and keep those amount of hits down to a minimum, it's great, especially for a guy like Jackson who throws pretty much 45 times a game.
Yeah, that grind on, especially when you are trying to make a deep playoff run, it makes a big difference. When I was offensive coordinator at Triway, Todd Sibley's junior and senior year, we really made it a point not to give him over 20 carries in a game because we knew we were going to feed him the rock down the stretch, and he really produced because he was healthy. So keeping those guys is a big part of it.
And the other part of that is too when you can get your better players out quicker. It's like Mount Union. Everybody always asks, why is Mount so good? Well, they beat up on people a lot in the conference and in the playoffs. So what happens is they are able to play their second and third team and get those guys experience. That's what happens in high school, and it's the same thing. And that there's no substitute for game experience, especially at the quarterback position. But when you can keep those guys rested and fresh, after 13, 14 games, that is a grind. And the one thing that I stress to my quarterbacks is when they do decide to run the ball, you got to manage the run game as well as you do the pass game. And by that I mean, there's times where if it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, you drop the license plate on the kid's face and you run over him. Mm-hmm. Where in the course of the game, if you get a first down, there's no reason to cut back and try and make 5 guys miss. You run out of bounds, you don't take that hit. If you can avoid one time getting stood up and getting hit 4 or 5 times, which happens all the time, over 10 games, that's 40 times that you're taking of hits that you're not putting on your body, which allows you to obviously go deeper and feel more fresh towards the end of the season.
Yeah. West Branch, 53-16 winners over Marlington. Big game from West Branch running back, Boston Mullinex. Always, we always hear about Drew DeShields, so nice to see somebody besides Drew DeShields getting in the end zone over there at West Branch.
Mully, you know the family tree with Mully, right? Mullinex?
I do not.
Pops was a Mount Union guy who played baseball, really good baseball player, and as is young Mullinex. So next gen Mullinex get it done. He actually played quarterback, worked with him a little bit at the academy, but he's a really good athlete. He's fast, he's quick. Like I said, his dad was a hell of an athlete as well.
So Jeff Tyler and myself were down at Carrollton for the big Alliance Carrollton game this past week. Absolutely beautiful. Setting was unbelievable. We had some Warrior cookies. Those were delicious. But that was probably the only thing that was tasting good for Carrollton that night because Alliance came out and they scored. Then, for some reason, Alliance was just like, all right, we're going to run it up the middle a little bit, right in the teeth of the Carrollton defense. Carrollton, kind of slowed things down. But when Alliance got the ball to the outside, it was ugly for Carrollton. 47-14 winners for the Aviators. 535 yards of offense. Brandon Zerbrug, listen to this. 16 of 18 passing. Okay. 2 touchdowns, no interception. Those 2 incompletions were both drops.
Doesn't surprise me. We watched him. We watched him week 1 when they got beat by Lake. He was 20 for 23.
By the way, he also had 140 yards rushing, and really started this game running the ball well for the Aviators. Caden Davis got in the end zone a few times. He also had about 165 yards rushing. Carrollton's offense is not built to play from behind in the second half. They really struggled when they had to throw the ball. They threw an interception. They're gonna if they want to win, if they want to beat Salem, if they want to be able to beat some of these other teams down the road in the EBC, they're going to have to find a way to complete some passes when they need to. And this leads us to the huge EBC matchup this week: West Branch and Alliance at Mount Union. Sam Berkwin and Jeff Shreve will be on the call for 106.9 FM. Let's talk about that game a little bit. What are your expectations for this West Branch Alliance game?
I think there's going to be a lot of points. I mean, you got two of the premier quarterbacks. We keep talking about Zerbrug. We keep talking about DeShields. These guys are going to go head-to-head. It's going to be a great matchup. These guys have been playing against each other for quite a few years now. Both kids handle themselves extremely well. The one thing that I really liked about the Alliance and Carrollton game wasn't so much the game itself. I had a chance to see the interview with Zerbrug after the game, and to see the way that he answered the questions, to see how he deflects to the team. You know what? My offensive line did a great job. Man, my receivers were wide open. It was all about the team. Selfless. He's a great leader. He's a great kid, and he's a great quarterback. He's one of the best dual threats in class of 24. He's so efficient. He's high level. He throws the ball away. He doesn't take sacks. He does all the stuff that you would want to build. If you were to pick a franchise player, that would be one of the guys to do it. And to boot, he's a track kid, and he can absolutely scoot.
I'll say it right now. I don't have to train any of these kids, so it doesn't bother me who I offend. But if I had to take one kid in Stark County at quarterback, I'm taking Brennan Zerbrug. Hands down. Hands down. I've watched a lot of these guys play. I think he translates best to the college game with his athleticism, with his build, with the touch that he already has, those types of things. And then, talking about this big matchup.
He's a junior, too.
Yeah.
He's still got another. We're going to watch this all again next year, and that's scary. Mm-hmm. And don't forget, they started the season 0-1, and they got handled. Scoreboard-wise. Yeah. Again, we say this every show because I really believe it. But looking back, if Lake doesn't score when they're down 7-0, I really believe that Alliance goes up 14-0 and the game's different. Yeah. But they didn't. But all Alliance did was just rebound and just stack win after win after win after win. It's an exciting matchup. It's going to be a fun one to cover.
In this game, watching Alliance, my only gripe would be is they got a little conservative. I think they need to stay aggressive. I think they need to continue to throw the ball down the field. I think they need to continue to run Zerbrug on the edge in those close games. You can't just slam Caden Davis up there in the middle when teams are stacking the box. So I think for this week, the key for Alliance is stay aggressive on offense. You can get the ball to Caden Davis. He's going to run the ball, but allow Zerbrug's legs and his arm to loosen that box up a little bit. And then defensively, you got to get your hands up because that ball's coming out against Drew DeShields, and be physical and lock those receivers up. Play some man-to-man. Make Drew DeShields throw the tight windows. Don't let him just pick apart your defense. And I think Alliance is going to come out with a win.
I agree with you. I think Alliance does get West Branch this week. I mean, it's going to be a Mount Union. It's going to be a great crowd.
Yeah.
Both teams are, West Branch is just down the road a little bit, just down 62. Alliance obviously is in the city where Mount Union is, so they're going to play a home game. It's going to be a big crowd. It's College Stadium, great atmosphere, Larry Karras Field. It's going to be a great ball game. It's supposed to be nice this Friday, so both quarterbacks will be able to, do their thing.
Yep. We'll move on to the Pac-7, which should be renamed the Overtime Conference because every single week a team from the Pac goes into overtime. And this week's overtime game was Northwest and CVCA.
Oof, big win.
Yeah, Northwest wins 29-28. Young Chase Badger, 4 touchdown passes, a couple fourth down conversions for them. And don't look now, Northwest is in the thick of this Pac-7 race.
5-2, and we were, we're kind of a little bit upset with the things that were going on, or question, the things that we thought could have gone on or should have gone on or whatever. But all they've done is just continue to get better. They've got young kids. Maraglia is still killing it from the running back position. He's a guy who totes it 25 times a game. He's not a big fellow. He's a little water bug, about 5'6", kind of like Darren Sproles, but he is quick through the hole. He's able to get behind those big offensive linemen and get into the second level. But Badger continues to get better. The key for Northwest is the defense.
Yeah, they're physical.
They're physical, and what they do is they create turnovers with an offense that's just not quite there yet. I mean, if you look at Northwest, they're better defensively than offensively right now. But if the defense can just keep giving them a couple extra chances with a turnover here, an interception here, or a sack, or tackles for loss that continues to keep teams behind the chains, that makes it a little bit easier for that offense. And they're really starting to find their stride. And Coach DeMarco and his staff, man, you got to take your hat off to what they've done.
Absolutely.
That's a huge win over CVCA, who was previously unbeaten.
Mm-hmm.
CVCA is still right in the thick of things, but so is Northwest. That was a great win for Northwest. Maybe a nice little wake-up call for CVCA that maybe we're not as good as we thought we were. They had a big game the week before. Maybe they were a little flat going and playing against Northwest, but Northwest was able to get it done.
Yeah, CVCA did have a couple injuries in that game, but nevertheless, great win for Northwest. Triway, no Zach Miller, quarterback, second week in a row. He's banged up, but it didn't matter. 31-8 winner over Manchester. Orville beat Tuslaw 45-20. Tough loss for the Mustangs. They're in playoff contention. We'll talk about it in a little bit, what they need to do. But then the other thriller was Canton South topped Fairless 39-38. Poochie Snyder,
stat filler, man.
He is phenomenal. He's a gamer. But the thing, that we had knocked Fairless for, Canton South for, was that defense. They found a way, when the game was on the line, late in the game, 2 consecutive stops to seal that win for them, to get the ball back first so they can go down and then stop them again at the end of the game. Poochie Snyder, game-winning drive, 2-point conversion, and you talked about, Zerbrug in his interview after the game. The interview with Poochie Snyder is his football IQ just came right off the screen to me. The way he was talking about the defense, and then the other thing is you talk about, people say, well, hey, you're not that guy. Like, quit being so confident. But he is that guy. He is confident. He is talented. He's got swag. And like I said, his football IQ is really good.
And experience. I mean, with all the games that he's played and all the attempts that he's had, all the times that they put the ball in the air, I mean, you're seeing everybody's trying to come up with something new. How do we stop Poochie? How do we stop Poochie? So they're going to try and, maybe play cover 2 to one side and cover 4 to the other, and then maybe we'll start with 2 high and then roll down to 1 high, and then we'll play man, and then we'll play 3. I mean, he's seeing all this, and the game for him just continues to keep slowing down. I mean, if you're in the batter's box, he's in the batter's box right now, and the defense is throwing a fastball, and it's coming out of the hand like a beach ball. Mm-hmm. It's so big and so slow that he's able to process, and he's working across the field, and he's making great decisions with the ball. He's doing it through the air. But then if he doesn't like what he sees, what does he do? What does he have the ability to do? To get the ball down the field with his legs. And he's running for almost 100 yards a game. He's throwing for over 250, 275 every single game, stacking touchdowns, stacking yards, and stacking W's. That team is really good. They're very well coached. Coach Dennison has been a long-time coach for long time, I believe, around 30 years now. Dad was a great coach over at Walsh University, one of the first head football coach there, if I believe so.
Then he's athletic director as well, yeah.
I mean, just a great family tree, great coaching staff, great players, and Coach Dennison, since he stepped foot on that campus, has done an unbelievable job.
I agree. So you look at the pack now, CVCA, Canton South, Northwest, all tied atop. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I'm looking at that Week 10, Canton South versus Northwest matchup, and that's going to be a big one.
Certainly is. I can't wait to see how it plays out the next 2. Mm-hmm. All I want to do is you guys just take care of business, so when you guys meet in Week 10, it's for that conference ship.
Yep, that'll be nice. We're going to take a break. Before we do, I'm going to talk about Ben Wallenberg's Chocolates, located in the Fulton Drugs Plaza, 2520 Harrison Avenue, right across from Stadium Park. The store is stocked. He makes fresh nuts every single week, every single day. I'm sorry. You go into some of these other shops that sell roasted nuts, you see their case stacked to the top. That's not what you want to see. Those have been staying in there forever. They're stale. He makes them fresh every day, does it unlike anyone else does. So get in there, get your little salty treat for the games.
Halloween's coming up.
He'll make little size packages for you. You can take it into the stadium I don't condone that, but if you got to sneak some nuts into the stadium, make sure you do that. And then go in and get your wife some of his creams. He does a bunch of different flavors. He does the German chocolate. He does the maple walnut. He does orange creams, lemon creams, vanilla. He's doing a bunch of different things. Espresso creams. My wife loves those. Black raspberry. So go in, get your wife some candy, just for no reason at all. Just say, hey, I love you. Earn some brownie points. Go get your wife some candy from Ben Wallenberg's, and we'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back to High School Football Rewind on the Stark Media Team YouTube page. You're looking at right now the current OHSA computer rankings graphic that we have out there. If you want to take a look at that, where everyone is ranked with the computer rankings, make sure you check that out on all our social media. OHSA is taking 16 teams per region right now this year instead of 8 like we've done in the past. So we're going to go through some of these teams that are on the playoff bubble that need to make some noise here in the next couple weeks to make the playoffs. And we will start, we're going to go to Joe Idle's site, Joe Idle, however you pronounce it. He does a great job with high school football playoff rankings. And we're going to start in Division 7, Region 25 with the East Canton Hornets. Currently sitting at 18, so they need to get up to 16 here to make the playoffs. So let's take a look at their schedule, see what they've got coming up. So they've got 3 wins right now, Requinas, Sandy Valley, and Strasburg. They're going to probably need to win 2 of these next 3 games to make sure they get in the playoffs. 2 winnable games, Tuskegee Central and Buckeye Trail, before that big Week 10 showdown with Malvern. If they only take care of business in one of these, it's probably going to be a bubble situation. But if they can take care of business the next 2 weeks, Coach Spider Miller's crew, the East Canton Hornets, should be in a good position to do that. So Brennan Betts, Jake McCullough and company, take care of business your next 2 weeks, and you're looking at an OHSAA playoff berth. The next team we're going to look at is going to be in Division 6, Region 21, and that's the Tuslaw Mustangs. Currently sitting 18th in the region. They need to get up here to 16, like we said. Tuslaw 3-4 on the year. Wins over Canton Valley, Tuskegee Valley, and Manchester. They'll probably need to win one of these next 3 games. 1 win and you get in. So find a way to win one of those. There are 3 tough games against South CVCA and Fairless, but it looks like they're going to have to win 1 game and they'll be in. Quarterback Troy Harbitner is going to have to light it up if the Mustangs want to get in the playoffs for Coach Gulling. Next team we'll look at had a huge win last week, and that's in Division 3, Region 9, and that's the Louisville Leopards. Right now they're sitting at 18th as well. This is a loaded region, so it's going to be tough for the Leopards to get in, but manageable schedule coming up. Big win over Green last week. They had the win over Northwest earlier in the season. Obviously a very difficult schedule, but they've got a Glen Oak team that's kind of reeling right now. Struggled last week, got pounded by Jackson. Notre Dame Cathedral Latin, that's a winnable game. And Lindsley, West Virginia, who they've beat previously, but has 5 wins as well. Lindsley with a big win over Steubenville and St. Clairsville, so that's going to be a tough one. So I think if Louisville's going to make the playoffs, they're definitely going to have to beat NDCL and might also need a win over Glen Oak this week. We're going to move to Division 2, Region 7 with the last 2 teams that we'll talk about their playoff chances, and they're both teams out of the Federal League. Obviously, we got Massillon and Lake in that region are definitely the better teams. Hoover's up there, but Green and Perry, I know they're sitting at 11 and 12 right now, but there's some teams underneath them that's going to have some winnable games, and they have a tough schedule coming down the stretch. Coach Slate's team, started off hot, winning 3 of 4 to start the season, loses a tough overtime game to Jackson, beats Louisville, loses to Hoover last week. and they play Green this week. I think the winner of that game ends up going to the playoffs, and the loser of that game may not make it. Then they've got Lake, which is a tough matchup, and then Glen Oak to finish the season. So a huge game this week for Perry versus Green. That's probably going to be a must-win for them. And then we talk about the Green Bulldogs as well. They're sitting right ahead Perry at 11. They've lost 3 in a row. They've got Perry this week, Hoover, and Lake. 1 win might get them in. 2 definitely will. So like we said, huge game for Coach Mark Geis's squad if they want to be back-to-back playoff contenders. Obviously, they had the deep run last year, and if he could get back again this year, that would be huge for his program. But they're struggling right now, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So huge playoff implications this week, Perry and Green. Maybe not a lot of people are focused on it, but if you're a fan of those teams, this game is going to tell the tale where the rest of your season goes. We'll be right back after another word for our sponsors to cover the Federal League and wrap up the show. All right, welcome back. This is the last segment of High School Football Rewind for the week. Thank you to all our sponsors. We appreciate your business. Make sure you're patronizing them. And if you're interested in advertising Stark Media, basketball season's coming up. We got great packages for basketball. It doesn't matter the size of your business. We can make it work for you. If you're not someplace that typically spends a lot of advertising money, we'll have packages that work for you. So make sure you hit us up at starkmediateam@gmail.com. And we also do a yearly package. You can pay monthly for your ads as well, and we'll run your stuff all year. We'll move to the Federal League now, where Green, who we just talked about, their playoff chances, went to Louisville, and big win, huge win for the Louisville Leopards. They stop a 3-game losing streak, a 10-game Federal League losing streak. Obviously, they're not in the Federal League right now, but 10 straight games they've lost to Federal League teams. They were a 27-23 winner over Green, and midway through the third quarter, Green was up 23-7 in this game before Louisville rattles off 20 unanswered to win a game. Charlie Roberts has taken over at quarterback, and who knows, maybe that fourth quarter and last touchdown in the third quarter turns things around for the Louisville offense. Maybe they found something.
And the 2 tutties, off the bench, we'd seen Davion Cruz for 6 weeks, and Roberts comes in and does his thing, and maybe that's what was missing. You never know until guys jump into certain situations. But we always thought together, Drew, that it was a disadvantage for Cruz to be at 3 yards in the pistol formation just because he's not very tall in stature. So, and then they really don't take typically a 3-step drop. So if you're just standing there and kind of hopping at 3 yards to start, and the pass protection when the routes are deeper down the field, the line's going to give a little bit. So when the line drops back, if you're 5'6", it makes it awful tough to see over the line. Maybe with Roberts in there, it's been a little bit different, but they scored 27 points. They were down. You look at Louisville, and if you say, okay, if Louisville is down by this in the third quarter, up to this point, the game's over.
27 points is the most they've scored this year, and it's not close.
For them to rattle that off in the last quarter and a half,
it's great.
Good for them to find it and pull out this win. And like you said, this could be the turning point in the season that gets them into the playoffs. And then, as we keep saying, it's a new season, and you never know what can happen. So congratulations, Louisville. That's a great win over Mark Geis's team. That's a well-coached team. That's an offense that throws the ball nonstop, and we watched them beat Jackson, and they've had some really good wins lately. But for Louisville to get that win, being down the way they did, shows a lot of character and where he has his team. Because it would be real easy in this situation if you're the Louisville kids to be like, here we go again. It's midway through the third, and we only scored 8 points, and this is or 3 points or whatever it was, and this is typically what happened. But you know what? The kids kept fighting to the final whistle,
like they did against Northwest.
And it was a great win.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about when we started the show at the beginning of the season, this is going to be a no bullshit, no fluff show. And let's be honest, because we know where the expectations are at Louisville. Coach needed that win. and you know, he's on the hot seat a little bit over there.
There's a lot of rumblings. I mean,
You know,
Louisville's only so big, Stark County's only so big, and as you said, football in Louisville is important.
It
the
is.
town shuts down. I mean, there's a lot of money generated that's been put in that stadium. You know, they got that scoreboard from Solon a few years ago that they put in there, and they've
Beautiful
struggled
facilities.
A little bit.
Yeah,
I love Louisville. It's a great place to
Great
commentate
football town.
and football town, and blue collar. The tradition's been excellent, and you know, I want to see them get that back. But great win.
yeah, great win for Coach there, and you know, these you know, we say, you know, maybe he's on the hot seat a little bit. Another big opportunity to say this. I'm turning this program around this week against Glen Oak, and then with, you know, Notre Dame Cathedral Latin and a good Lindsley team coming down the stretch. So, you know, for them, you know, that they can finish strong. Maybe those rumblings will go away. But now we'll move on to a game that you and TJ Downing had over at Jackson on 99.7. It was the Jackson Polar Bears 38 and TJ Downing's Eagles nothing. And I think they might ban TJ from games at Glen Oak from now on, because every time he does their game, they lose.
It could be the X factor. I don't know. I'm not putting that out there. Man, 7 deuce, you know, waving ass a little bit, not real happy for us.
Yeah.
But no, man, it was a letdown. I mean, let's be honest.
For sure.
And I'm sure it was a letdown to Coach Scotty Garcia as well. You know, he works hard. He's done a great job of trying to build the program back, but he's got young guys. Avante Burt was suspended for a game and a quarter or whatever. I mean, you know, when you're suspending kids that there's some stuff that just isn't right, especially at the quarterback position. They're trying to get that right, but I didn't see 38-0 coming out of nowhere.
And here's a message. I coached at Glen Oak for a year. I know some of the challenges they have, and here's a message for the kids, the players at Glen Oak. I won't usually harp on things. Trust your coaches. So we'll move on to Hoover, who rebounds after a tough loss to McKinley. They beat Perry 24-14. Great showing for the Hoover defense. Holds Perry to 14 points, Perry's lowest output of the year. This Hoover team quietly is still in the running, you know, for the Fed now.
Quietly is the truth. I mean, all Coach Baum has done is got these guys back to 5-2 after graduating a guy, you know, on the defensive end, Logan, who's at Cincinnati, getting it done. Carson Durland continues to get better, a lot more on his shoulders this year. Didn't ask him to do a lot last year. You know, another solid game, you know, throwing the football. I believe he was over 200 yards again in total offense. I believe 2 or 3 touchdowns. He continues to get better. You know, anytime you got an Ashby from Hoover, you know that kid's pretty good. He's, third gen now behind Pops and Big Brother. And he's getting it done.
You know, you mentioned Mason Ashby a couple weeks ago. You said, you know, he's kind of the X factor. And if you look at their 2 losses, he wasn't a huge impact in those games, especially against McKinley. I think maybe he did have a kick return or a long touchdown against Mansfield, but
got to find ways
you
to
have to get him the ball. Yeah.
You know, you got a guy with his speed. You know, what do? You can line him up in the backfield. You can motion him out, and if they go man to man, now all of a sudden you're getting a linebacker isolated on him. You can line him up at the slot position. You can run him on jet sweeps. I mean, you can get creative to get that kid touches somehow, some way, because he's electric every time he gets the ball, and he's a home run hitter. Continue to find ways to get the ball to him.
Yeah, and for Perry, like we said, they a tough couple of weeks after the hot start, winning 3 out of their first 4. They've got to win at least 2 games here down the stretch to put themselves in a good position come playoff time. Now we'll move to which was really one of the games of the week in Stark County. McKinley 36, Lake 26. McKinley jumps up to Lake jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Took the opening kickoff, then they scored another touchdown, and Lake did what we said was the recipe to win this game was put Will Butler in there at quarterback most of the game, run him, let him throw the ball, but it was really the McKinley running game staying strong in this game. And Sincere McNeil continues to be a threat in the red zone. He caught a touchdown. And for Lake, my view of this is okay, it's a loss. It's at the end of the world? No. The best lessons you have come from losses, and this is their first loss. They're going to learn, and they're going to grow.
I agree. And I love the fact, and we were wondering what and how it would play out with Butler and Jarvis, because they have been going back and forth with him. And they went with Jarvis the whole game this game. Through a couple
Butler.
With Butler, I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. Will turned the ball over 3 times, which is completely uncharacteristic for him. You know, the one was the ball slipped out of his hand.
That's a fluke.
Fluke.
It happens.
We talked about it. Maybe 3 times in your career as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The one interception, the guy made a good play. He confused him. He never saw him. The other one, he was putting on himself. I talked to him after the game on Friday. Highly disappointed. He's a kid who I've worked with, as I keep saying, but here's the kind of teammate and kid he is on his own. We talked at 11:30 on Friday night after the game, and he had already been home and broke down the film and watched it. I mean, how much does a kid care?
Absolutely.
I love the fact that he's taken ownership. He said, I should have played better. I put this on myself. I made plays, when they were there. I did some good things, but at the end of the day, we didn't get it done. As you said, is it one loss? Yeah. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. But what I would like to see, and for coaches and parents that are out there, as talented as Will Butler is, or any quarterback that's in this type of situation where you're splitting reps and going back and forth, this was really the first game that the kid has ever started and played from start to finish at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
And you're asking him to do that against a team like McKinley when he's only thrown, 6 or 8 passes in the previous 3 or 4 games. Can he do it? Yes. Does it make it harder on a quarterback to be able to perform at that level against a team that they haven't beat in 7 years? It's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Get the kid some more reps, continue to get him more throws during these next 3 weeks. So when you do go into the playoffs, however you play this out with those 2 quarterbacks that have had a good season, if you want Butler to be the guy down the stretch, and when it comes playoff time, get him more throws when it counts in the games, and not 2 or 3 throws. Everybody knows that he can run the football. He can run the ball down your throat. He's 6'2", 6'3", now 220. He's going to run through you. He's got 10 touchdowns on the ground. Get him some more throws in certain situations during the course of the game, and let him continue to get better, because he hasn't had a ton of quarterback experience. The only time he's really played a ton of quarterback has been this year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year at Mogador, they would move him from running back to quarterback, of course, when they got behind, and they wanted him to bail them out. Mm-hmm. You have this, you know who he is, how he is. We're through 7 games now. It's a process, I know, because he is such a good player on defense. So how do you offset that on offense? But you know the skill set on offense. You know what he can do at the quarterback position. You know what he brings to the offense when he's out there all the time. So just help him out and get him more reps in those situations, and I think that the team will be better. And I think that they'll be better from this loss. Mm-hmm. They will learn a lot. They'll learn more as a staff. And Lake's having a hell of a year. 6-1 is phenomenal. I haven't been 6-1 in a long time.
Yeah, I to your point, I totally agree with you. He had 22 passing attempts. It's the first time he's thrown the ball, over 15 times in a game. He's going to learn. Those are reps that you learn from, and it's tough to come in and have that first performance against a McKinley team like that. I think Lake grows from here. I think that they finish out the year. I think they run the table for the rest of the year in the Federal League, and I think they grow, and I think they are a threat in the playoffs. As Will continues to grow, obviously they'll keep bringing in Cale Jarvis, for a series, maybe 2-3 series a game here.
However you do it, both kids can get it done.
They both can play. They're starting to get healthy there, at Lake.
Miller,
they got Ty Miller back. They addition to the offensive line. Now if you see them playing against that McKinley team, and I bet those coaches are saying like, hey, if we played them again, I like our chances, because there were some things that Lake did in that game that were uncharacteristic of themselves that they hadn't done up to that point. So I think the rest of the season is really bright for Lake, and the coaches now have to press the kids and say, okay, these are the things we need to improve. We see it on film. Someone beat us, and let's continue to get better. And I hope it happens, and I think it will eventually. I think eventually we're going to have a Massillon Lake playoff game, which is going to be a great game, great for both communities. I think they'll obviously show out. They support their teams, and I think that's what Lake's headed for if they continue to improve.
Just gotta wait and see how it shakes out. I like their chances though, and I like what they're doing. It's a great time. There's never a great time to lose a game, but you've been a head coach and assistant coach. You kind of look around sometimes and kind of gauge the kids, and peacocking a little bit.
Sometimes you need a loss.
Feeling themselves a little bit, and you're kind of sitting there as a coach like, yeah, we're good, but we aren't like that.
I'll give you a great example of that too. 2015, I'm the offense coordinator at Hoban. We're 9-0. Week 10, we go play Cleveland Benedictine, who I believe has one loss. They lost first game of the year, and I think they were ranked below us in the AP poll. I think we were number 1 in the AP poll. They might have been like number 2 or number 3 behind Toledo Central Catholic. They beat our ass week 10, 35-10.
Was that when Baker was there?
Yeah, that was Jerome Baker's senior season.
Awesome. Only makes sense that
yeah,
you say 15. I'm kind of doing the math in my head.
Justin Lane was also there, very good player, but they beat our ass, and we needed that. We needed to put on film and bring our guys back down and say, like, hey,
this can't happen.
You think you're there?
We're not showing up.
You're not there yet.
We're not showing up, just beating people.
And we continued to, run the table all the way to the state championship game. And we came across an opponent that we had faced before, Toledo Central Catholic, beat us 6 touchdowns to nothing in a scrimmage, all the way back 17 weeks prior to that, and we were able to beat them in the championship game, but making adjustments. But yes, to your point, those losses can be very valuable to you, especially now when 16 teams make the playoffs, those types of things. But this loss for Lake is, like we said, it's not the end of the world. I think they're going to rebound. I think they're going to continue to improve, and they're a team that's going to challenge to get to that regional championship game. We're going to wrap the show up now. This week, just to let you know where we'll be, Sam Berkwin and Jeff Shreve will be over in Alliance for the West Branch Warriors at the Alliance Aviators, Mountain Union. Huge game for the EBC. That'll be on 106.9, Rock 106.9, and the iHeartMedia app. TJ and you will be over at Tom Benson for Jackson at McKinley, 99.7 FM, and the iHeartRadio app. And Jeff Tyler and myself will be over at North Canton Hoover to see those Lake Blue Streaks take on the Hoover Vikings. Huge game for Hoover. Huge game for Hoover. Hoover, big rebound game for Lake. So we're excited to do that on the YouTube stream game. We appreciate everyone's time this week. Like we said, follow us on social media. Reach out to us if there's anything you want to hear. We'll get back in the film room next week. I know everyone wants to see that. And good luck to all the coaches and players. Stay healthy, and good luck.